Lone Wolf Audioworks presents The New Adventures of Doctor Who. Icebrg, written by David Banks. Read by James Leeper. Chapter 2. Summer in the 70s.
It fell on her skin like a drop of blood. Jackie thought at first it was rain. She glanced at her hand. A small red bug sat motionless on her flesh. From nowhere, from out of the sky, it had chosen the back of her hand as a landing strip. She felt privileged. She was a student of natural history. She had a professional interest. On the cafe table, her textbook was open at insect mythology. She had been taking notes when it landed. Enough of books. She would examine the real thing. She put down her pen. Inside the cafe, tinny music blared out from a small transistor radio, a product of International Electromatics. IE merchandise was everywhere these days, it seemed. The music seeped through the open door of the cafe and out to the paved-over street called St. Paul's Churchyard, where she sat in the shadow of the cathedral dome. From a hoarding overlooking St. Paul's, a giant face smiled down, one eyebrow raised. Tobias Vaughan, IE's managing director. Underneath the picture, a caption read, "Uniformity, duplication, IE, the secret of success." Jackie had got up at an insanely early hour to revise. The Turkish cafe owner had been flabbergasted to see her. She looked at her IE wristwatch. It was still only 8:30. She had been at it for an hour. She deserved a little break. She was grateful to that bug. She lifted her hand and examined the creature. As she classified the insect, she made herself think in English, not in her native French. Mythology. Well, it was obviously a flying beetle. Of what class? Coleopterus? Of the family Coccinellidae. She was pleased with herself. Perhaps this afternoon's exam would not be quite the disaster she expected. Next, topography. The evolutionary ancestors of this bug had once had 2 sets of wings. In the relentless pursuit of efficiency, the front pair of wings had been converted to sheaths of shiny chitin, red armor plating to protect the delicate functional wings that were folded underneath. Against her dark skin, the exoshell glowed like ruby. There were several black spots on the casing. She counted in English. 7. It looked like some beautiful African bead the traders sold in the local markets near her Algerian home. When she was little, she loved stringing such beads together to make a necklace. But this was living jewelry. She imagined a necklace of ruby bugs. She had been fascinated and a little repelled to learn that insects wore their skeletons on the outside of their bodies. But that is how they evolved. That is how they survived. They were the ultimate survivors. They would thrive on radiation that would finish the human race. A nuclear accident, so likely in this Cold War climate. A nervous finger on a button, a simple misreading of a radar blip, and the insects would take over in the radioactive ruins. The tiny creature was on the move over her dark skin, a miniature tank on a mud-flat battlefield. The 7 black spots, a poor attempt at camouflage. A thought occurred to her. Perhaps this very bug would be the progenitor of some brave new world that had no people in it, She shivered. "Who's the lucky one then, love?" Jackie looked up at Thomas. The cafe owner was a silhouette against the already brilliant sky. His Turkish cockney no longer sounded bizarre to her. Since those difficult weeks last October, when she had newly arrived at the London college, he had provided coffees, and a great deal of comfort too. He began to clear her table. The breakfast rush would soon be on. "Lucky? Why do you say lucky?" Her English was fluent, but its sound was softened by her French-Algerian accent. Thomas smiled down at her. "Well, that's what it is, innit? To have one of them things land on you. I've seen lots of them already this year. It's the heat that brings them out." He wiped the plastic tablecloth. She lifted up her books with her unbugged hand. "You mustn't shake it off, though, nor nothing. You've got to wait till it flies off, of its own and all." "We have these bugs in Algeria," said Jackie, studying the beetle once again. "But there, they are much larger. What do the English call them?" "Ladybird, innit?" he exclaimed, incredulously, at her ignorance. His eyes glinted. "What? You got the giant versions in Africa, is it? Won't catch me going down there, then." Jackie smiled. A punk walked by, an IE radio held like a high-tech handbag close to her fishnet thighs. The pulsing music faded into traffic noise as she turned the corner and passed from sight. Somewhere, Jackie could hear a distant hum. For an instant she imagined 1,000 insects, flying in formation, buzzing. She blinked up into the cloudless sky. "Here, this is what you do," said Thomas. He brought his mouth close to Jackie's hand. "Ladybird, ladybird," he growled. "Fly away home. Your house is on fire, and the children have gone." He straightened and grinned at her, flashing a row of yellow teeth. Gold glinted in the sun. "You're not having breakfast, then? Can't do your study on an empty tummy, is it? Not with exams coming up." The thought of the exam made her queasy. "Just another coffee, please." "You'll have coffee coming out your ears," he quipped, as he went inside to see his other customers. The IE radio played a maudlin pop tune. The words mingled weakly with the sounds of the street. "Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday." Jackie looked at her hand again. The ladybird had flown. She sat back contentedly. The sun beat down on her from above the dome of St. Paul's. She enjoyed the feel of it on her face. It was going to be another hot day. No rain for weeks. Across the street, a few early tourists were lining up for photographs. The cathedral steps were dry and dusty, just like the steps of the local church in her hometown of Philippeville. She closed her eyes and listened to the street sounds, the footsteps of the passers-by, the excited babble of the tourists, the drone of the traffic. The buzzing was closer now, or louder. Not an unpleasant sound. London felt like home. She would stay here. She would pass her exams and become a lecturer and meet a nice man and settle down and have children and live happily ever after in London. She was feeling warm and comfortable. Sleep was trying to pull her under. She had got up too early. She felt her resistance going. She was in the street called St. Paul's Churchyard when she should be asleep in bed. St. Paul's Churchyard. The name expanded in her mind, gave way to horrid images, decayed bodies stacked under slabs of pavement, eyeless zombies walking stiffly through the crypt. A shadow fell across her face. She opened her eyes with a start. Thomas was placing a steaming cup of coffee on her table. He stifled a yawn. She saw a tourist sitting on the cathedral steps, keel over and stretch out as if to sleep. Another, ascending the steps, dropped as if exhausted. The buzzing filled her ears. Was the transistor radio on the blink? Tobias Vaughan smiled down from the giant hoarding. He gazed at her with a cold, ironic eye. It was the last thing Jackie saw before she fell into a kind of sleep. Her chin dropped down onto her chest. Her eyes stayed open, unseeing. Nothing moved in St. Paul's churchyard. Nothing moved in London. Silence settled over the city like a shroud. She did not hear the clatter of the heavy manhole cover as it was flung aside, yielding to some upward force. She did not see the eyeless zombies marching down the steps of the cathedral, their gleaming metal surfaces glinting in the sun. She slept. While somewhere behind the moon, a spacecraft watched and waited.
Coordinator Network Node 1, Earth Time 0834. All areas now covered by our transmissions. All humans under our control. Human Agent Tobias Vaughan to prepare communications network. Human Agent to transmit radio beam. Transporter ship to lock on. Invasion vehicles to be guided to Earth. Human Agent informed invasion to continue under his direction. This is for cooperation purposes only. Statement of logical expedience, not fact. Invasion continues at all times under central network control. Earth time 0846. Conditions suitable for immediate invasion. Reprioritize. Invasion fleet to arrive in 2 waves. Phase 1. Activate first invasion fleet. Immediate. Phase 2. Detach vehicles from transporter ship. Phase 3. First invasion fleet assumes formation pattern. Await transmission of radio beam from Earth. Phase 4. Lock-on beam. Proceed to Earth invasion and reprioritize. Time 10:15. Alert. First invasion fleet exposed to danger. Earth missile detected. Correction. Missiles 5. Insufficient on present calculations. No serious depletion of initial wave will result. Correction. Missile arrangement calculated as hostile. Cumulative chain event predicted. Event horizon to encompass entire first fleet. Fleet locked on to beam. Alternative avoidance actions unavailable. No evasion possible. We have been betrayed. Time 10:17. Event horizon as predicted. Data checked and confirmed. Entire first invasion fleet destroyed. Seeking cause of failure of invasion mission. Cause of failure attributed to human agent Tobias Vaughn. He betrayed us. He is of no further use to us. He will be eliminated. Reprioritize. Destruction of life on Earth now necessary. Every living being. Forces already deployed will be sacrificed. Human opposition is useless. And reprioritize. We will survive. We will serve. Earth Base Coordinator Node 1 attacked. Assumed destroyed. Relocate to Node 2. Resume network control. Coordinator Network Node 2. Relocated at transporter ship. Earth time 10:18. Network control resumed. Deployment of bomb to proceed. Prepare Megatron bomb. Time 11:02. Projectile launched from within Earth Eastern Block. Moon trajectory calculated. Radiation detected. Probability of nuclear warhead 92%. Presume hostile. Evasive action necessary and possible. Radio transmitter beam still operational. Transporter ship to lock on. Approach to within 50,000 miles of Earth. Megatron bomb to be deployed. Earth time 14:17. Evasion tactics successful. Transporter standing off at 50,000 miles. Detach Megatron bomb. Earth time 14:19. Alert! Interruption of Earth radio transmitter beam. Transmitter presumed attacked and destroyed. Alert! Hostile missile approaching Megatron bomb. Bomb destroyed. Reprioritize. Proceed with backup plan. Activate second wave of invasion vehicles. Transporter ship to enter Earth atmosphere. And reprioritize. Earth time 1427. Alert, emergency, alert. Trajectory of hostile moon vehicle realigned. Recalculating course of hostile moon vehicle. Collision with transporter ship predicted. 3 minutes, 35 seconds to impact. Adopting emergency procedures. Detach all invasion vehicles. Immediate. We will survive. We will survive. Earth time 1430. All vehicles detached. 0 minutes 28 to impact. Impact explosion predicted. Result: forcible dispersion of all vehicles. Damage will be sustained. Damage probability 65 to 75%. You will survive. Dispersal random. Final destinations unknown. You will survive. You will proliferate. 0 minutes 13 to impact. Disengaging network control. Activate vehicle coordinator nodes. Assume autonomous control of individual units. 0 minutes 5 to impact. Disengage network. Immediate. We will survive. We...
White. Jackie was dreaming of white. At the edge of her vision, there was something solid and dark. Everything was blurred. She tried to focus. She blinked. The white was shiny and patterned. She blinked again. She was awake. She had a headache. She was staring at the plastic tablecloth. In front of her was the cup of coffee Thomas had brought a minute ago. Her lips were dry. She reached for the coffee and sipped. Something cold and slimy touched her lips. She retched. A thick layer of congealed milk dribbled down her chin. The coffee was tepid and hours old. She glanced at her watch. 2:35. She'd been asleep for hours. Her exam was at 3. She scrambled for her bag, left some money on the table, and ran off in the direction of the college. She might just make it. Through the window of his cafe, Thomas saw her go. He didn't think much of it. She wasn't the sort to do a runner. As a matter of fact, he wasn't feeling well. He had a blinding headache. He worked too hard. He ought to give himself a break. He couldn't think where the past few hours had gone.
Coordinator Node 38 disengaged from network. Earth time 1514. Will survive. We will survive. Autonomous coordinator control established. Located at Node 38. Post-event assessment. Explosion has propelled us in direction of Earth. Damage. Minimal damage sustained. We will survive. Data on other units. No contact currently established with other units. Many destroyed. Others propelled into deep space. Destinations non-computable with present data. We are being pulled into Earth atmosphere. Utilizing propulsion drive to control acceleration. Crash landing predicted. Polar region. We will survive. We will proliferate.
You have been listening to The New Adventures of Doctor Who, Iceberg, written by David Banks. This chapter was read and produced by James Leeper. This has been a Lone Wolf Audioworks production, read for non-profit and enjoyment purposes only. Be sure to give this video a like, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next release. This is James Leeper. Thanks for listening. Next chapter. Chapter 3. Winter 86.